Okay, so we looked at Slack scripts, and now we're going to have a look at on-the-box Python. So obviously we need some .py Python scripts, and they go into the same directories as the Slack scripts. So obviously vardb scripts, and then op, commit, events, and snmp. And you can check to see if they're there and running with the file list listed there. Obviously we have to put the file in. So set system scripts, and then either op, commit, or event script, or snmp, and we have to list the file. Now, two of these files you can just list away without an issue, but for two of the files you probably want to put a username in that's going to be executing the script, for the simple reason that both the event scripts and the snmp aren't triggered by users. The snmp is triggered by an snmp get from a network management station, and of course the event script is triggered by an event. So if you don't put a username in, then it's going to run under the group nobody, which isn't necessarily a problem, but if you want to lock it down, then you need the username there. And obviously, of course, as you run these scripts, they have to be executable. So there's that as well. There's a couple of issues with Python that we don't have with the other scripts. We really actually do need to say the script's language Python. And what we're doing here is we're actually giving it permission to run an unsigned script. So without an unsigned with an unsigned script, if it isn't told to run Python, then it won't actually start Python. Obviously our script's going to be unsigned, so we need it either Python or Python 3, depending what version that you're on. Okay, so for the op script, you're effectively done by putting in the file. You can run the script, and you get the prompt, and we're good. Now for the commit script, just got a couple of issues we have to be careful with. And obviously, if this file was missing, then you'd fail the commit. So as I said, you can run this to check that the file's there. It's interesting because it says file list and it's var run scripts rather than vardb. So that's kind of interesting there. And of course you can load them from Flash as well. So you get a different set of directories for Flash. That's config scripts, op, etc. However, if you add the keyword optional at the end of this commit file, then basically if the file was missing, it's not going to fail. Obviously it's not going to be running the Python script because it's not there, but it's not going to fail the commit. You can also activate and deactivate the file, and that's quite useful because that gives you the ability to turn that off. Okay, so how has Juniper accomplished all of this? Well, as you know, the roots of netconf come out of Juniper, and the work on the XML is really quite developed here. So in fact, what we have is we have the PyEasy package, which is Juniper's onboard Python. That package, which is the juniper.junos, which is PyEasy, it's using the same XML API as the Juniper CLI. Let's just unpack that for a moment. So it's the same XML application programming interface as the Junos CLI. So we can actually see this exposed API here. If we type show interfaces, or really any command, and do a pipe, and we type in display XML RPC, you can actually see the remote procedure calls that the Junos CLI are using. And of course, we're going to be using the same one. I think there's a couple of changes like underscores instead of hyphens, but effectively the Python plugs straight in. And because this package has been developed, it really is incredibly featured and fills all the gaps that was left by the other programming languages. Okay, so just a final note about this particular event policy here, which is quite clever really. I'll put another link up here, automation generating internal events to trigger event policies. You should be able to find that with a search. And that explains that you can actually generate internal events, or events that appear to be internal. So we have the command here, set event options, generate event, ping RTT event. We're actually using that event to trigger our event script, Python script. So set event options, policy, ping RTT. So the policy that's going to be calling the Python script is actually looking out for the event that we're generating with this command with a timeout of 60. And what this script is doing is it's going to be pinging an IP address that you put in here. It's going to do it however many times you put in as the arguments count, and it's going to be recording the round trip times, and that's going to be triggered every 60 seconds, and then we'll provide output. So a really great script there in the event, and that's basically it. Python on the box. We've got the Juniper Junos package or PyEasy. We're using exactly the same remote procedure call XML RPC as the Junos CLI. So really just fully featured. We've got this excellent command, display XML RPC, to actually see what that call should be. So Python on the box, very similar to the Slack script in terms of location and enabling. A couple of things you have to do, and massively featured.